What's happening, people? We're just going live on Instagram as well. Don't know why I'm trying to copy and paste Q&A. I can just fucking write in there, can't we? A&A? No. Right. Fucking hell. Right, sweet. Sorted. Rolling. Go on YouTube. What's happening? Thank you. We're getting Instagram rolling up. What's happening, people? Hope you're good. We'll give it a couple of minutes, as always, to let some people join us. We populate a little bit. Guys, watch this on the replay. Give me a hashtag replay. Also, team, I am using YouTube more now as well. So you guys on Instagram, you guys on Facebook, you guys on YouTube are going to know because you already fucking got me. Head over to YouTube, type in Type 1 Tom, go subscribe to my channel. I'm going to start doing day in the lives and some vlogs soon in the next couple of months. In the next couple of months, I'm going to start doing day in the life and some vlogs of how I go about my day, all the thought process that go through my mind when I'm exercising, working out fucking blood glucose management system things. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm going to do a day in the life. I did this a few years ago and it takes up a lot of thinking and time and, you know, camera work and shit, but it's going to be really good for you guys. But I'm only going to probably post that on YouTube. It'll be a fucking long video. So would help if I pulled up my podcast stuff. And then we can get into it. What's happening, team? If you're jumping on, just leave me an emoji in the comments. Let me know that you can hear me and you can see me. Okay, please. And we will get started very, very shortly. Like doing something a little bit different that I have never done before on today's show. So we'll get started in about 30 seconds. Let some people jump on. It's going to be good. Little Q&A style. I've already got some questions. So I'll get into it when I've done the fucking intro, right? We'll save it. Wait, be patient. Right. Shall we get going? Hit fucking record. Come on, Tom. Get your head together, mate. Right. 3, 2, 1. Yes, team. Welcome to another episode of the Type 1 Movement Podcast. The number one place to be if you're a Type 1 diabetic or love a Type 1, know a Type 1, whatever. Yeah, you are in the right place. First, I want to say thanks for being here today. Secondly, we are doing something that I have never done before on a podcast episode. We're doing solely a Q&A, some questions that I got asked. We'll get into that shortly. But first of all, team, leave me a rating and review on the podcast app, as I really do appreciate that, and it helps me reach more Type 1s and also helps me positively impact our community. Feel free to screenshot, share it on your Instagram stories, tag me at Type1_Tom so I can reach out and say thank you. So, man, I had to go and get my bloods done before, right? And I fucking hate it, mate. Like, honestly, I can't stand it because years ago, I nearly passed out. Little story, I went in, she went, "You all right with needles?" I was like, "I'm sweet, yeah." Well, I didn't say I'm sweet. I said, "I'm okay. Yeah, it's fine. I've got loads of tattoos. I'm a Type 1 diabetic. Don't worry about it." She was like, "Okay, cool." So she did a thing, stuck it. I can't really say stuck it in, can I? Stuck the needle in. Yeah. I'd be a bit worried if she was sticking it in me, wouldn't it? Right, stuck the needle in. Getting off track here. Stuck the needle in, took my blood, and then I was like, I feel a little bit queasy. And you know, when your ears start ringing, you get a bit cold sweats. I know I wasn't having a low as well. Like, I thought I was going to pass out, so I had to lie down. So ever since then, I don't like having my blood taken. I'm going to have to do it for the rest of my life. So I always get nervous as shit. Do you know what I mean? I always get nervous as fuck. But it's done now. I've got the war wounds, little plaster on my arm there. Little plaster to prove it. I'm just fucking dead hard, mate. Had it done. Anyway, moving on. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to switch things up a little bit, and every now and again, I'm going to do a Q&A. So once a week, I try to put like questions out to you guys on my Instagram stories, right? And we get some fucking mega questions. I love them, love them. So keep at it, you guys. But I thought instead of just answering them on my stories and then they're gone in the mist of fucking wind of social media, why not record some of the best ones on a podcast and do a live like this and on YouTube and on Facebook and on my IGTV? Why not do that? So that's what I've done, mate. Yeah, that's what we're doing. So we've got a good few questions here. So we're going to get into it. Let's go straight into it. First one was, where do you inject? So me personally, I use a pump, but I also bolus as well using NovaRapid. Yeah, I've got my pen here. I'm showing it to the camera now. You guys on the live will see this. So My pump, I always stick like the top part of my stomach or the lower part. You know what? Actually, when I've done TikTok videos and I've put it quite high up, people are like, oh, you're going quite high up there. I'm like, all right, mate, I'm fine. Do you know what I mean? It's fine. Like, we've all got a personal opinion, and this is mine. Like, I go high up or lower down, and when I inject, the same. I don't go in my arm because of the absorption rate, and I've never really gone in my leg. Tell a lie. When I was just on pens, multiple daily injections, and I was taking Lantus, and when I switched to Levemir at the back end of last year, because I wanted to go back on pens and challenge myself, I took my pump off. I put my long lasting in the top of my thigh or the top of my arse, yeah? But bar that, my rapid acting goes in my stomach. I find I get the best absorption rate from that. Personal preference, my advice to people is always play around with it. See what's going on, do you know what I mean? Like, play around. See what it's like in comparison to putting some rapid acting in your arm, in your leg, in your stomach. Hey, have a go and see what happens. How many calories should I be eating in a day? This is a broad question, but I'm going to give you guys a quick rundown of how to weight your calories out. First of all, you need to determine what your goal is. Do you want to maintain your body weight? Do you want to lose fat, or do you want to build muscle? Yeah. Regardless of that goal, once you know it, you need to work out your maintenance level of calories, and that's the amount that you can theoretically maintain your current weight on. There's so many calculators online. I use calculator.net or some shit like that. But if you search in calorie and macro calculator, Google it, you're going to find one. This is going to kick out a rough estimate of your maintenance level of calories. What you need to do then is probably the best thing is to decide on your goal from there. If it's losing some body fat, yeah, probably take 200 to 500 calories off that a day, right? Because it's going to spit it out a day. For argument's sake, let's say I type in the calculator and it says, Tom, to maintain your current body weight, you need to eat 3,000 calories, right? And then I decide, right, I'm going to eat 2,500 to put myself in a deficit. I want to lose some body fat. I'll go in on that. I'll probably run with that for 2 weeks, and I'll keep an eye on my weight. I'll track it consistently every day to get the average, and then the same the second week. I'll see what's going on. If I'm losing at the rate I want to lose, cool. I know I've got my calories right. If not, I'll adjust it, go from there. Same on the flip side. If you wanted to gain some lean muscle or gain a little bit of weight, find out your maintenance levels. Let's say with me, it's 3,000 calories, and I'm going to plus maybe 300 calories. Probably just 300. Go in at there, very conservative. It takes longer to build muscle, put weight on, especially if it's muscle than it does to lose body fat, right? Unfortunately, it's a slow process. So I'm going to go in what's called a caloric surplus, and I'm going to do that for a couple of weeks, keep an eye on my weight, see if it's moving. Sounds simple, but it fucking is simple. There's calculators out there. That's how you work out how many calories you should be eating a day, yeah? So decide on the goal, go and Google macronutrient and calorie calculator. That'll spit a rough figure out. It's not going to be exact. Eat that for a couple of weeks, keep an eye on your weight, seeing what happens, and adjust from there, yeah? Honeymoon period. There's so much we can cover on this. Guys, the honeymoon period is basically, I never went through it, but some type 1s do. And that's basically when your pancreas is still producing some insulin whenever it fucking feels like it. Yeah. It's still producing insulin whenever it feels like it. So some people, type 1s that aren't fully, like the pancreas hasn't stopped producing insulin, might not need to take a basal insulin. The pancreas might be kicking out a little bit, yeah? Some may not need to bolus for food. Like, it's so frustrating. I've worked with a few people in the honeymoon phase. It's very frustrating because you might be like, right, I'm going to try and figure out my insulin to carb ratio. You might put some in. You've got the artificial insulin in. Then you've got your body kicking out. It's normal, and you're having a low. Do you know what I mean? It's frustrating. But eventually you will come out of that. Your body will stop producing insulin. The only way that you're probably going to know that is you're running higher more frequently. So as frustrating as it is, and no one knows as well, do they? Not like in 8 weeks' time, you're going to be out your honeymoon phase. Doesn't fucking happen like that, mate, does it? And it's frustrating. I was quite lucky. I never went through it. I just went bang straight into being a full fucking fledged type 1 warrior, right? And I think a lot of people do. But for you guys who go through the honeymoon period, it's frustrating, but stick with it, because eventually your body will stop producing insulin altogether. And I think that's a better way, really. Like, that's my personal opinion, right? I think it's better that we just go in, body's not producing any insulin, so we're not having to fuck about and guess when our pancreas is going to decide to start to kick out insulin, right? Moving on, getting stable sugars before bed. Guys, there's two main things on this. I could do a whole episode on this. There's two main things you need to look at to get your blood sugar stable before bed. The first thing is your basal rate, whether you're on a pump or pens, yeah? Your background insulin, basal rate. The second thing is your last meal. If you're eating a high-fat, high-carb sort of meal, and you know it's going to cause a delayed spike, you might be in range before bed, then you're spiking overnight. Yeah, way to combat that would be extended bolus if you're on a pump, or set an alarm if you're on MDI to wake up 3 or 4 hours later to give yourself a second bolus, that split bolus. But getting stable sugars before bed comes down to what your last meal is, yeah, what it was, how big it was, the amount of carbs, fats, and protein in it, and if your basal insulin is correct as well. I know that I don't want to sound a cop-out, but that's basically what it comes down to. We should be in range before bed. Yeah, you should be getting yourself in range before bed. Going low, so moving on now, going low when missing a meal. If any of you guys go 3 or 4 hours without a meal and you start to drop low, that's too much basal insulin, or you're on a pump or you're on pens. Yeah. So if you eat a meal, 4 hours later, you're on rapid acting. I'm just guesstimating. Well, let's say you're on rapid acting. 4 hours later, rapid acting's done its job from your last meal. You're waiting, you're not eating for a bit. At, let's say, hour 5, you start to drop low. That's your background insulin, meaning that there's a bit too much in there. It's pulling you down. Yeah. What we want in an ideal world as type 1s is for us to be able to like not eat for let's say 6 hours, 7 hours, like when we're sleeping, right? And stay in range. That's the job of our basal insulin, our background insulin, to keep us in range. So if you find you miss a meal and you go low and you've not got any rapid acting insulin on board, yeah, it was 4 hours after your last bolus, it's your basal insulin that's pulling you down. So probably look to adjust that. Going high when bolus correctly for a meal. Going high when bolus correctly for a meal. 2 sides to this, team. 2 motherfucking sides to this. If you go high and then 3 hours later, when you've eaten, you've bolus, you think you bolus correctly. If you go high, 3 hours later, you're still high, you've not bolus correctly. If you're having to give a correction after 3 hours, you've not bolus correctly. So either your carb count was wrong or your insulin to carb ratio is off. Yeah. That's point 1. The second point, if you go high, you spike up, big spike, or however fucking we spike, right? And then you come back down into range around 3 hours, you carb counted correctly, you got your insulin to carb ratio correct, but your pre-bolus time was off. That's the idea of pre-bolusing. So we don't get that huge spike from meals, yeah? That's pre-bolusing. Way to figure out that is I always start with 5 minutes. 5 minutes bolus, eat my meal, see what happens. If a spike up, come back down in range, right. Next time I'm moving it back to 10 minutes. What happens? Do a spike up, come back down. Right, a spike's up, I come back down into range though. Move it back 15 minutes. It's a frustrating process, but a lot of the tests are that we do with type 1s, and it will pay off massively in the long term when you're not having huge spikes after meals again. So that's how to kind of sort that out. Another one, personal one to me. Do you have a nighttime spike? Meaning, do I get dawn phenomenon? Yes, I do. And that's the reason that I went on a pump. So when I was first diagnosed, I was on Lantus, glargine insulin. And I get a spike between, let's say, 3 and 5 a.m. throughout the night. Dawn phenomenon, hormones releasing, all that sort of good shit, yeah? I get that like a lot of type 1s. Now, when I was on pens, I could give enough Lantus and it'd keep me stable, but I'd have so many lows throughout the day. And then on the flip side, if I took some off, so I wasn't having that many lows throughout the day, I was getting the dawn phenomenon. And even on Lantus, even on Traceba, the best one for this that I have clients on is Levemir, because you can, if you're getting dawn phenomenon, you can give more in the evening because you can split it around 10 to 12 hours apart. If you're getting dawn phenomenon, you're getting a spike, you can put a little bit more in the evening, and then your second one, which is going to be in the morning, you can do a little bit less. This is the reason that I went on a pump. I'm actually taking the most amount of insulin for a 20, not that that's a fucking bad thing. It's what I need, what my body needs, right? The most amount of insulin for a 24-hour period from the hours of 1 till about 5 or 6 a.m. to stop that dawn phenomenon, that overnight spike, yeah? Go and Google dawn phenomenon, team. If you're getting a spike, if you go to bed in range, right? If you've not had a high-fat, high-carb meal before bed, you've had a standard meal, yeah, you're in range before you go to bed, and then you notice you wake up and you're high and you notice you've had a spike throughout the night and you don't think it's from a high-fat, high-carb meal because you've not had that, that's dawn phenomenon. Go and do a bit of research on it. Like, that's why I went onto a pump, and that's why some type 1s like to use Levemir to stop that. Best way, this is the last question now, team. Best way to figure out your insulin to carb ratio. Okay, the most simplest way, what I did and what I teach my clients is this. You need a very simple meal. You 100% know the carbohydrates in. You know it's not high in fat and it's not high in protein. Remember, we don't want that delayed response. I did a sandwich. So I need 2 slices of bread. They were 15 grams of carbs each. That's 30 grams. A little bit of ham, fucking 10 grams. And the fat was way under 5 grams. So I knew I've got 30 grams of carbs there. This is when I was first diagnosed, what I did, yeah? And I was like, right, I was told 1 to 10, like we all are. We know that can be wrong in the morning, in the evening, yada, yada, all that. But I went in at 1 to 10, so give 3 units, yeah? I didn't know about pre-bolus in then. So years ago, I didn't fucking know. Give 3 units. I tested an hour after, 2 hours after, and 3 hours after. If you're back in range after 3 hours, as we mentioned before, if you're back in range after 3 hours, chances are you've got your insulin to carb ratio correct. If you're staying high, chances are you need a little bit more. If you go low within that, chances are you give too much, yeah? I would always work on getting your insulin to carb ratio right before you work on your pre-bolus timing. That, I know that's simplified and dumbed down, but that's the easiest way. It does change in the morning, so you probably have to test your breakfast in the same way, your lunch in the same way, and your dinner in the same way. This is what I get all my clients to do. But first, the biggest rule, team, first, before you start testing your insulin to carb ratio, make sure your basal rate's correct. Make sure your basal rate's correct. So if you go in first, test your insulin to carb ratio, you're like, right, that's sweet. And then your basal rate's a little bit too high, and you drop that down, then your insulin to carb ratio is going to change. So start with your basal rate first, always, yeah? So I think that just about sums it up. That's it. Some good questions on there, team. I'm going to keep doing these. I might do one a month, actually. I might do one a month because I've enjoyed doing them. So guys, go and get me on Instagram, type1_Tom if you haven't, if you're not watching this on the live. Because when I do put out, keep an eye on my stories, when I do put out a chance to ask questions, I'm going to pick some of the best ones and we're going to do a live like this in a podcast, yeah, on it. But team, right, anyway, I think that just about sums it up. Hopefully you got some value from that, yeah? Feel free to DM me with any questions that you've got as well, because I'll just keep like a little treasure chest. What's a treasure chest? Treasure chest notes of all questions. Right, team, that is it. Thank you very, very much for watching and listening today. Until the next episode, peace. Pull it up. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Thank you for watching. Appreciate you. I'll have a quick skip through. Make sure that we've not missed any questions. Fred, the website for calories again, please. 1 sec. I'll look on my bookmarks. Calorie calculator. It is, yeah, calorie calculator. Let me just make sure I've got that right for you. Yeah, calculator.net. Calculator.net. That's the website that I use for working my own and clients' calories out and stuff like that. It's only ever a ballpark, team. When you work your calories out, you're going to have to eat what it recommends, see what goes on with your weight, and adjust from there. Yeah. Right, gang. Thank you very, very much, mate, for joining us. Catch you all in the next live. Have a fucking boss day.